So my challenges in building community in the first year seminar are, I think, sort of maybe pretty expected. The first one is attendance, because when students don't come to class or miss for a long period of time, it's much harder to create community. Um, the other challenge is I find a lot of students to be shy. I'll use that term, as a general term, like to include all kinds of other reasons why they might not be wanting to talk in the classroom. But it is difficult to have them sometimes share or participate in discussions. And so it's especially true at the beginning of the semester, but sometimes it persists throughout, especially with some students. And even with a lot of like active learning kind of activities, it doesn't, and maybe it's because I teach political science where I'm used to students always talking. A lot of our students like to talk. That's why they pick political science. They like to debate. They like to discuss the news. They like to, be involved. For me, it's a little bit of a different experience teaching the first year seminar with students, especially they're learning, they're new, they're all first year in the class. And that's another challenge, by the way, that in many of our classes, we have students at different level of their academic journey. And so some of the more advanced will maybe start the discussion, but then others joining. When you have a class of all first year, first semester students, they're all kind of basically in the same category. And so unless you have a few that are more active participants, it can be harder to get the discussion going.
It's very common in language classes because you have somebody with more fluency in the language than others, and the tendency is to pair a strong one with a weaker one so the weaker one can learn. But you cannot do it all the time because the stronger one will get bored. So you have to rotate. So we do that a lot. Sometimes I ask a very good student specifically, would you mind working with such and such person? And they go, yeah, I can do it. And sometimes others tell me, I'd rather not. I said, no, no, no worries. And you ask permission because you don't know if they're going to feel like, oh, they're always asking me, or maybe they feel, ooh, they asked me. So the reaction can be different. For the first year, at the beginning, I just want them to know each other, and I don't know their strengths yet. So I put them in 2, in 3, and 4. So I do that, and I do different rotations at the beginning of the semester to listen to their voices, for them to meet, creating the community. Later, I have an assignment where 4 of them have to do a special service oral presentation. So those 4 get to know each other a lot. Sometimes they find their friend from the whole university. And I see them walking around years later. They're still friends. That's awesome.
And in general, by the way, this is something I learned from Matthew Chetnik and some of the other training that I've done on the first year seminar. The more icebreaker you can do in that class, the better. Like I do a lot of icebreakers in the first year seminar, much more than my other courses.
Yeah, and I remember during the pandemic, you were, like, teaching everyone how to do icebreakers on
Oh,
Zoom
God, yeah,
and
I remember that, yeah.
all these great ideas.
Mhm.
Um, I had thought that I really needed deliberately build community. And so you have students break into groups and then you randomize it and then you do this and then you do that and that way. And now what I feel I do is I make opportunities for community. I do have students in the beginning of the semester break into small groups that I determine. And sometimes I do have the students break up into small groups randomly so that they're able to be in a small group with every other person in the class. But often I allow students to make a choice. Do you want to just have a small group of convenience where you're sitting? Or sometimes I'm not sure about the groups, and I'll ask students like, So which group do you want to move to? And, nobody's hurt. Sometimes also, instead of breaking into small group, I'll ask the class, do you want to just speak as a whole class and not break into small groups? Does that feel the right thing for what we're doing now?